Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, wherever it is in the world for you. This is Backdrop. Um, and In a change to our schedule, we're going to do a documentation because we don't seem to have any UX issues. So I'm going to talk a bit about documentation. My name is Martin Price, Yorkshire Pudding around Backdrop. I'm a Backdrop uh, web developer and contributor from Northeast England, and I'm the um, facilitator for the documentation um, meetings that we're normally having once a month. Um, if we go around the room and just do introductions, I'll pick Luke first.
Hey, I'm Luke McCormick, coming from Martinez, California, which is near San Francisco and Oakland. I go by Cell Ear on various platforms. I do technical architecture and project management and a certain amount of marketing and occasional coding within the Backdrop and Drupal worlds. And I'll pass it off to Tim.
Hi, my name is Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Joseph?
I'm Joseph. I'm a I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada. And is Jen's the last person?
Are you there, Jen?
She might have walked away.
Okay, we might just skip Jen. You want to go ahead then, Martin?
Okay. At the last meeting, we talked a bit about how people can uh, should be able to find information on the docs site. And at the moment, it's quite overwhelming when people go to the front page. I shall share my screen just so we have a visual of that. So when we go to the front page, this is what we see. So it's quite dry, and you do have quite an overwhelming menu here. So what we talked about was having some pathways. So what I've done here is started to sketch out a draft structure for what that might look like, but also done what I'll do is I'll skip down to the bottom because this is the latest version of the idea for the home page. Whereas instead of being faced with a large menu, it's focused on what you want to do, whether that be install, configure, develop, or get involved in some way, whether that's get involved with documentation, contribute a module, contribute to core. So very much focused around what you want to do. And I've also included an example of what one of the submenus might look like. So this would be a submenu from install, where you've got brand new site. This is how you install it if you're just creating your new website. This is what you do where you're looking at Drupal 7 upgrade. And this is what you do if you're looking from WordPress. And I know we have module and we have experience, and we might not have all the documentation yet, but it will probably make sense to include this. And then we've got the migrate from another CMS, which is where we can talk about feeds and how you can bring in information from structured content in order to populate your backdrop database. So this is the this is what we have, and we've had some really helpful feedback from people and sort of general positive feedback around this, but help sort of suggestions to improve things, particularly this get involved icons changed a few times to get onto this, and these icons aren't set in stone, but it's just an idea that instead of going into a large graphical menu, that we drive people down a series of pathways that helps them find the information that they want, and we more tailor the menus that they'll see below that. So rather than what I'm starting to think is that rather than having this master menu, that we maybe need to look at splitting it up, and it may be some of these pathways will some of the pathways will lead to the same place, but we could probably look at having different menus depending on exactly what you're wanting to do, because someone who is just wanting to build their site, so let's say they go to install and they go to a new site, they might only then be interested in how to configure their site and what other modules what modules they might want. They might have no interest in no interest or competence in building a custom module. So we wouldn't be overwhelming them with that. We would just provide them with the information that they need for what they want to do. So we've got a slightly different group of people in this meeting than who have commented so far. So it'd be good to, if anyone has any thoughts.
I'm super excited about that prototype. that like when you switch back to the existing thing from that, I felt like my heart's like, oh no, this, oh yeah, back to the so yeah, you're on the, I feel like you're on the right track.
I think it's very promising. It definitely it meets an important need, and I'm still anxious to sort of see the details and if there's any problems. I don't know. I'm just curious to see if this is going to fit and work with what we currently have.
Yeah.
Where's that Balsamiq interface?
Yeah, it's Balsamiq that I've did it in. So
is that posted somewhere?
What, the file?
Yeah, the picture we're looking at, is that in Zulip somewhere, or
it's in? I'll put a link to the issue
queue.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's in the docs queue, and I'm going to put a link to it in Zulip right now.
Cool.
Great, thanks.
In the docs, in the documentation group.
Yeah, so the images there I haven't uploaded. I'm not sure even if GitHub accepts Balsamiq files, but anyway, I haven't uploaded Balsamiq file. But anyway, this was the general idea, and we might have to sort of map out what different quick links would show in different places, and the idea of that you would tailor them depending on what screen you were doing, so that in addition to the pathways, you could quickly jump to things, and perhaps search as well. So that's that. Do feel free to sort of add thoughts, and if we want to expand it out and start to think about what the detailed menus might be under that, and where it might. I do think what we've currently got, if we do want to target it at the different things, then we possibly do, because, for instance, we've got this developing for Backdrop here, and we've got the developer API here. But what we've got here is we've got the contributors guide, which might have nothing. You might be a contributor without having to do any code, because what you're going to do is write issues. You might do triage of issues, you might test issues, but you might add milestones to issues, but you don't need to be a developer to do that. And yeah, and we've got the kind of user guide and getting started, which is they're different. So it may be that we need to look at how things are structured. It's a shame Jen's not around, because it'd be good to get her thoughts on this too.
Yeah. So, Martin, I think it sounds like what you're suggesting is you've got these. There's Jen. So maybe I'll
Hello.
give her a chance to respond.
Hi.
Did you hear what Martin's been talking about?
I heard half of it and I heard my name and so I perked up.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is kind of what we were talking about at the last documentation meeting, and we're kind of looking at sort of a pathway in, so it's based on what you want to do,
I like it.
rather than a big. And then I've given one example of what the submenu could look like. So we can then tailor the idea being that underneath this we'll tailor the information to do this. And so, for example, what we might have in here and here, we might have more information about, and I'm not sure how ready it is, but we've got a Word. We've got a kind of import from WordPress module that I know Justin's been doing work on, but we've also, for other CMSs, we've got a very powerful feeds module for pulling information in, so we can talk about that, and it's making that information. And what we were trying to kind of ascertain is how things might need to, whether we'll need to change this, and saying, well, actually, when you're coming to develop, you've got the whole kind of developing for Backdrop and the developer API, and even some of these, and then you've got the contributors guide, which might be separate, possibly includes this, but it might be better, instead of having a single large menu, that it's more tailored. And it might be that from these different pathways, you will have the same information available from one pathway to another. So you might have some of the same information available from this different pathway as you navigate your site.
I like it.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Martin. So the idea, like, go up one screen. Yeah. So this this one seems to be like potentially 4 different sections
Mhm.
of the website. So I think what you're suggesting is that the left sidebar menu be sort of tailored to which section of the site you're in.
Yeah.
And so that could kind of work, but I think what's missing from your mock-up, like, okay, so I click on developer to develop, and that takes me to the develop section of the site, and I've got the develop menu on the sidebar. Now I want to get back to configure. How do I do that?
I think we could
Well,
just put this block like in the footer. And so
Okay.
on any given page, people could like change sections if they wanted to.
Okay.
mhm.
I was
Yeah,
thinking,
maybe
Or could,
search on the
could
top.
have a menu at the
Right.
top.
right,
Yeah.
we don't actually have a menu at the top on this site. And
Right.
so maybe that could go there without the icons, but then we use the icons on certain pages, right?
Yeah. I do think we need to be a little bit careful that like these 4 things do not encompass everything
Yeah.
people need to be on this site for. And so
Mhm.
we do still need to give people like a list of everything that they can somehow get through. I don't think what we're doing now is the best way to do it. But we don't want to like bury things where people like don't
No.
know how to get to the page. Like they don't know which option here they need to pick in order to get to the like, I don't know, how do I manage my security release for my contrib project, right? Like we don't want them to have to struggle with this
Yeah.
question. And so I think this is really helpful for like the homepage, like, you know, new people coming here, they don't know how to, they don't know what they want. They just know they need help. But I do think we also need to provide other avenues in for people who like, you know, to get to what they need better. And that
Yeah.
might just be both. Like at the top of the page, we put this big friendly section, and then underneath we have like that density of links, maybe in
Mhm.
columns or something, just that people can
Mhm.
scan more easily to get to what they need, or maybe like just the section headers and not the sub pages, just
Yeah.
something that sort of helps people get
And
through it.
some of this other stuff could be in a kind of secondary menu that's kind of just above the footer
Yeah.
that gives like because that's also good for SEO.
Yep.
If you do have the kind of accessible links to those other key pages, but it's not when someone who's brand new to Backdrop, but this is their first website, goes into it, they can quickly find what they need to do without it being daunting.
Yeah. I like that. I also think like our massive left menu is not great what we have now. If there was a way to divide that into smaller sections, I would be very pleased with that. The thing that makes me nervous is that you're right, some things are going to need to appear in multiple sections, and we don't have a really clean UI for that in core, right? Like you're allowed to choose one page in the menu, like in the sidebar that you want your page to go on, but you can't automatically put it into 3 menus where you might want it in all 3 menus. That could just be like we need to add some contrib module that allows more menu support than what we have now. And I think that we could probably do a pretty good job with the pages we have now, just putting them where we want them to start with. But just over time, I'd worry that like, are we going to be able to maintain that like multiple links to the same page pattern? If we could come up with some other way to manage that, like, I don't know, I'm thinking of leveraging views where like on the page, you could say like, what
Yeah.
categories does this menu go into? And we give
Yeah.
them 4 options and we can auto generate those menus. I think that might be a little more maintainable. I'm just brainstorming. I don't know if that's the right solution, but just something like that.
Yeah, I was
figure
thinking views could be a way around it, because you can make the views look like anything you want, really, can't you? So
Yeah. Or we could use like taxonomy if we had some like, what section do you think this page belongs in kind of mapping that could include like install, configure, develop, get involved.
yeah.
And maybe any other options that might not be the big 4, but there are still
Yeah.
valuable. Yeah, I don't know. But in general, I like where this is going. I think this is much better than what we have. So however we can support, we can look into how to do it.
I do like that
I'd advocate for having more than I don't know if this is intended as part of the design or not, but uh, you know, my work with Drupalism has reminded me that people can interpret words differently. So I'd advocate for having like a sentence beneath the thing, like under develop, say, here's how you create modules and themes, and yeah, I would see if we rely on people understanding what a word means, we're gonna get it wrong a lot. They'll not know what configure refers to, for example.
Yeah, or get involved. Like,
Uh,
how does that fit into the documentation site? Like, do we have anything on the site for
We
how to
do.
get
We
involved on
have
the main site?
we have how we can contribute. So whether it's contributing to documentation, contributing to add-ons, contributing to Backdrop Core.
Yeah. I just think
Yeah.
there's a lot more to getting involved than this stuff, right? There's like join a meeting. And so I wouldn't want
There
people to,
is, yeah.
yeah, like assume this is a complete set. We could also like in those menus, we could just link to the other sites too, or we have other
Yeah.
pages.
Yeah.
So maybe we can make it a more complete listing. But yeah, I think you're right, Luke. Just putting a sentence in there could help too. That could also set the right tone. Like we can be like, here's how you can contribute to documentation, code, and what have you on this site or whatever, just like so they know we're not talking about how to join a meeting or how to go to a live event or something. That could be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People will self-filter themselves out of things very quickly. So we want to inclusively pull in people that might go. And also, that gets your scannability thing, Jen, right? If they can find the words they're looking for in a little bit of text.
Yeah.
If you go back to your mock-up quick, Martin, I'm assuming that Martin didn't necessarily assume that these were the final four that would go there. It might be contribute instead of get involved,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah,
I think we
and
can
that
figure out.
was originally what
Oh,
it
okay.
what it was. So
And then,
I've just kind of been responding to feedback and adjusting things. 'Cause these are just mock-ups. It's not.
Yeah.
And the contribute page could say other ways, have something, other ways of getting involved and link back to the main site or something.
Yeah.
So again, I don't have a position on that yet. Is there anything, what do you need from people right now, Martin, to keep this moving? Is there certain questions or specific things you need feedback on, or? To be honest, how long is this? Have you had these mock-ups in the issue queue? Because I haven't seen them yet.
2 weeks.
2
So
weeks
pretty much did them straight after the documentation, or the day after the documentation.
Then maybe we just got to make sure people realize that you actually have mock-ups there to look at, because I didn't.
Yeah, I put something in Zulip, and so we've got a few more people looking at it today.
Yeah.
I put it in the Backdrop channel, just so people who weren't in the documentation channel could also have a look.
I have to say your title to create pathways to find documentation. I think that felt to me like it was more about like URL structuring or something.
Oh, really?
All right.
And if it had said mock-ups for front page, that would have got my attention.
Oh, I don't know. I like
It's
I
fine.
like
That was my reaction.
Two aspects, really. I guess
yeah.
That was just my reaction, so it doesn't matter. Now that I know what it is, I will pay closer attention.
I do think I really like the idea of having like a more visual, welcoming
Yeah.
approach to specifically like the installation with the different types of installation. I think that's fantastic because those are the people that need the list of links the least, right? Like they need the most help and they need to be not grounded to like read the manual.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. I have one suggestion. I don't know, maybe I'll put it in the issue, but for the installation, it would be great if we had how to install an existing Backdrop site as one of the options, rather than like it's a new site from 4 different locations. Because there are people like, oh, I have a Backdrop site. How do I run it?
Oh,
Like,
right.
how do I make a local copy, right? Like, Yeah.
Ah,
know,
right,
I
okay.
often hand off to people and they're like, how do I install it? Like, I don't have any.
So you're talking about where you've maybe got a production one and you're wanting to download it install it locally.
Yeah, or you have database files in config and you like don't know how to hook them together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I don't know that that's needs more than one page. But it does seem like if the only, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll just write it in the issue. We don't need to worry about it in too much detail now. It's just an idea.
yeah. No, definitely. I think we do have some stuff on that in the documentation because we have stuff about deployment and
Yeah.
the different models for the config folders and that. But yeah, there is the how do you take an existing site and build it up as a new one.
I don't know if this is getting too nitty gritty, but so you've the install, scroll back to your mock-ups of like the install that we were just talking about. Well, actually, okay, so this would come for like, how do I get to this page? Go back up to the one right above it.
Yeah.
I have the issue open, so I can look at I can look at the issue.
So that would be from this one here.
Okay, so if you click, so I like the idea that there probably would at least be for most of these, we would need at least a second level.
Yeah.
Would we ever want to go more than that? Would there ever be, do you think we'd ever have a third page, which is now like dividing, images,
Maybe.
I don't know. I haven't got that far in my thinking.
And maybe we don't need to
whether it would still be a kind of graphical menu once you get down to it, or whether.
Yeah, and I don't know if we need to decide that now, but that's just going through my head. Like, is there 2 levels of this graphical menu, or would it possibly go deeper? And I suppose you could have that option. Some sections may not need it and others might.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like
Okay.
it. I think
Yeah.
I would see this just technically as like in the beginning, we just set up some custom blocks and place them on the pages where we need them and see how crazy it gets. And if we need more infrastructure than that to support like on this page, what are the 4 calls to action you want or whatever, we can build that. But for now, let's just get it done and see.
Would we
what
do
we've
it
done.
as blocks or would we do it as cards?
We can,
I was thinking one block would include all 4 buttons. So this would be like the
All
block
right.
for the home page. This could be like
we
the
could have
block for the interior page or what have you.
But we
could put
probably
a
need to
block
make
on
it
the-
responsive.
we
Yeah,
can put a block on there that shows the links and gets them from a field.
but
like
then
we
we
could
need
have-
a thing to put the field on. We could move the field on the block, I guess. We can make
But
a
the,
new
the
block
fields
type.
on the, wouldn't we be putting these on like documentation pages?
Yeah, we don't have those fields though yet. And I don't know if we want it on every documentation page, because if we're only gonna put it on the top 2 levels, that might be a little much. But we
Can I-
could.
Can I
We're
ask
thinking about architecture again.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah,
Do we have a dev or a beta site for the doc site that we, or, that we could actually just start building this stuff out and trying it?
yeah. All of our sites have beta versions.
And I don't know if we'd want to use the official beta version. Should we spin up a separate sort of version for this experiment, or could we just use the regular beta?
I would like it to be someplace where if we want it, we can deploy it. So I don't want it to be too separated from what we're currently working on, like have a branch somewhere that we can merge or push or whatever. So I don't know if anyone wants to do it locally, that's totally fine. But I would say having it be connected to the base project is important. So yeah, if we want to put it on the beta site, we can. I think I don't know if it's docs.beta or beta.docs, but we have a server.
I doubt anybody's using that site for anything else right now, are they? So
No, I think the way it's set up, I can ask Justin, but I think the way it's set up is that like every day when we get a snapshot of the database, it automatically pulls it into the other server, because we've been trying to do some work on the beta site for the new homepage, and it gets
Mhm.
overwritten every night. And so I think
Oh.
there's an automated script that does that. I don't know if it does it for every site, but I know that it definitely does it for the beta site for the main website. But I can ask him. I tried both those URLs, docs beta and beta docs, and neither one seems to be pulling up the site. But I will ask.
Well, I think the main takeaway is that we should probably have a dev or beta version that we can actually try this out with the real content and start to see what it looks like. So that would be a step forward. And how about, so Jan, I'm supportive. You seem to be suggesting that we could try to be pretty action orientated on this. It would seem to me that one of the potential blockers would be the graphic themselves. What should each of those look like?
Yeah,
we
I
agree-
think as long
we
as we
wanna-
use Icon
ahead.
API, we can change our mind on that at any time too. So I'm not sure that's necessarily a blocker. I think we'll just do a like best guess initially, and if we need to fiddle them around, we can.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess I was thinking, would it be more than just an icon? But I personally think just a big icon would be good enough. So I think that,
yeah, I
and
think
it,
just to start, I think
yeah,
that
yeah,
would be
exactly.
fine.
Right. Once we get it fleshed out some, if we found it, we could look at getting someone with more design in
mhm.
place but
And we are rolling out this new version of the Borg theme for the primary website that does have these styles for these blocks. So even if right now they're just like, we just put whatever black border push, as soon as this theme gets done, which will be shortly after we do the deploy of the homepage site, we'll be able to propagate the new theme across all sites. We should just be able to add classes, and hopefully it'll just snap into whatever the new design styles are. So yeah, I would say let's not worry too much about the design and now.
Yep.
And yeah, if you just want to build it and start working on navigation patterns, we can. Um, dividing the menu, I think, is something that's going to be tricky. So that might be, I don't know, as simple as just make 4 menus with whatever top level sections we have now and just like move the top level item, and that might be enough for just playing with it to see what it's going to look like. But yeah, I don't know.
I feel like that's where the beta or dev site becomes really important, is so that we can just
Yeah.
try some things out and see how
Yeah.
they work.
Yeah. And I think if we did end up with 4 separate menus, that would be pretty easy to like put them all into like a fat footer sort of. Ding, ding, ding,
Right.
ding. If we have more than that, we can put in 8 menus. I don't know, whatever it's gonna look like. But yeah, we can figure it out. We have design for that too, on the new theme, so should be okay.
Okay.
So, something I'd like to bring up about that menu on the side is that some of the pages that are in that menu don't show up in the search because they're actually view pages and it's not content. For example, the form API reference, if you take away that menu, it will just totally disappear from the site.
Yep.
So,
Mhm.
and possibly we'll need to, at the same time as this, make the search better, or just make sure that we have all of those pages in the structure. Actually, I would
Yeah.
like to make the search better anyway, because currently you search and it only shows you names of functions in core.
Yeah, that it shows you names of functions in core and titles of nodes, but
Well, I think you have to type and then submit, and then it'll show you the names of nodes in the search results.
yeah.
But the autocomplete only is the functions.
Yeah. Yeah, so this, we might need a different search because that search is specifically the API search.
Mhm.
But if we're gonna put one like in the header of the site or something, it might be better to have a site search. It's not just an API. Because this wasn't, it
Yeah.
started as the API site, so that's how it started, was the API search. But yeah,
Yeah,
so yeah,
and I think
in,
that
in
API
general,
search will still be useful when people are looking at the kind of develop pages and the API pages.
yeah.
They're just not as so. If you want to find something, and you're taken to a function page rather than
that's why
documentation.
Right, that's why we need other options for the
Yeah.
autocomplete than just the functions. So if you start typing a question, it shouldn't autocomplete book form.
Yeah.
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 So I think we just need a different search box for that, like this screenshot, right, would be a completely different thing than what we see in the API search, and it can return API pages and it can return answers to your question, but maybe no autocomplete at all. It's a normal search.
Yeah.
Can you pull up php.net actually? And click in their search box. And if you type something like install, it'll give you documentation pages. But if you were to type something like array slice,
Yeah.
it gives you the function page.
Yeah, that's quite cool.
So, and it has a little description of each thing and says like what the type of the thing is.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Well, I'll maybe create a separate issue for search, and we can reference this and say we really like this and how it works, and we should look at how we improve the search. So I'll create a separate issue for that. We're also we're running out of time, but do we want to touch on contrib documentation? Because I know you've made a start. I've made a start in draft, and I'm planning to flesh it out a bit more over the next couple of weeks.
Well, if you think, I mean, I would like to maybe talk about it quickly, unless you feel like you're in the middle of something and you want us to wait until you get it fleshed out a bit.
No. So we've started looking at contrib documentation, and I know Tim has started adding some around domain. Do you want to?
Well, so I mean, the only thing that I really did was tried to get a couple of pages in there so that we could start to, because I think Jen had sort of built out the infrastructure of where it would go, like created the content type, and I thought, well, I'm going to try to create at least 2 or 3 pages, but I haven't really thought too much about the overall structure. I know, so Jen, maybe you can talk more about it. Your idea that, like, for each module, if there's subpages that would show up there. I think my big question, the one thing I'm not understanding yet is how do I, and this is maybe the new design is going to help with that. Maybe we need a section for contrib modules, a block or something, but like, how do I find, other than finding the domain module through search or getting referred to it from the project browser? If I'm on the doc site, where do I find the contrib? Modules.
There's going to be a page, right? We have a page with like contrib documentation, and that'll list everything. And so you can either use the search there, which will give you only those pages. You can use this theoretical site search that we're going to build in the future that'll give you anything.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to get there from the top level page.
Yeah, I'm less worried about. Yeah, I think
if you're on the site for domain documentation, you do not need links to all of the 8 other 100 modules, right? That's not helpful. So just trying to figure out, like, we might need a clear path to get to that landing page, right? Like right now it's pretty far down the list. But I think as soon as we can get people there, their ability to use that and get to what they need should be straightforward. We just have to get them to that first page easier. And I think having it in the searcher also be helpful too.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. And this question seems less important given the other work that Martin's doing, because that seems to be the first step.
Mm.
you know, figuring out where contrib modules will fit into those mockups that Mark has already done. That you like, because that could potentially be a whole separate section itself, Mark.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you
because
know,
it could come from both when you're installing your site, you want to know about modules, and when you're configuring your site, you want to know about modules. But obviously, to start with, we won't have lots of modules in there.
let's
So I've started work on one module, but I've just kept it in draft at the moment because this is a module that I'm adding a load of features on, so it's keeping it under wraps until I release those.
okay.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing now. So
I don't think we need to decide this today, but it came up related to that, which is what the difference will be between the wiki and the document, you know, the doc site in the future. And like what we obviously aren't going to be able, I think, to just push a button and move the wiki to the doc site. So, but do we want to be encouraging, you know, like what our official policy is? Are we encouraging people to use the doc site instead of the wiki, or
I
and
would
how do
say
we?
should encourage DocSite over Wiki just for findability.
Yeah.
And for all, I don't think there's that many existing wiki pages. And I
No, I
think
don't
that
think so.
we
Yeah.
can't use the GitHub API to figure out which projects have a page and which don't. And maybe we can use that to get a list of 15, even just like internally once, just get the list. And then we can be like, okay, these are the pages we need to move over. If it is over 15, that's the thing you could do, like I could do while watching TV one night, right? Just like copy, paste, copy, paste. Hope the formatting works out, but like, yeah, it would be a good start, I think.
Well, if we do like decide to do that kind of a manual migration, I would definitely help with that as well. So maybe we divide it up.
Yeah.
If there's, because I think you're right. I don't think there's not going to be like many hundred. I mean, I feel safe to say there's less than 100, and the question is there less than 20? Okay. Well, this is really good news or good progress. We're
Yeah.
further along than I thought we were. I'm glad we talked about this today and look forward to following up at Backdrop Live.
Yeah. Right. Do we want to end the meeting there or anything else you want to
I
cover?
think we could.
Yeah.
There is, so, well, let me just throw this out because there is like an issue in the forum today or yesterday of somebody asking for an update to documentation. And I didn't reply yet. Maybe somebody else has already replied. I guess the official way to handle that would be to send them to the documentations GitHub page. I think feel like I opened another issue for someone else in the last week that was documentation related, where somebody said this needs to be updated in documentation. Is that still the best way to do that? To just open an issue in the documentation issue queue saying this, somebody has suggested that we update
I
this.
think so, but I think we need to probably get better about sort of triaging them. I think now we've got the permissions sorted on that, I'll be able to do a bit more triage. I just haven't got round to any, and then maybe start tackling some of these where they need to be done and prioritize them.
Okay. Well, if we get this forward revisions module going too, I'm hoping that we'll be able to get this on the doc site quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to help.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it would be good to get some of the people who have expressed an interest in contributing to documentation. to feel that they could actually do that and not worry that what they do is going to go live without someone looking at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll end the recording at least. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.